Now, today's episode is not about the model. It's all about the airbrush. At least that's the plan. And hey, wasn't there two of those? Okay, so when I ate the first one, like you couldn't figure that out, right? When I popped it in my mouth, I immediately thought of maple syrup that I used to buy from a guy who used to sell, that he used to buy his syrup from a little factory in Quebec. Well, this goes back about 20 years ago. And so, not that long ago, when I was actually talking to Donna, I asked her, I said, "Where'd you get those candies?" And she says, "I get them from a little outfit in Quebec." And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if it was the same outfit? But not too likely. I think there's probably a lot of outfits in Quebec that, make maple syrup related products, because I think that's a big thing there. Anyway, well, let's carry on here. Now, I shouldn't have any problem getting those not mixed up. Now, it had originally been my plan to measure the nozzles and see if the old one was shorter than the new one. But you know what? I'm thinking that if I was to accidentally squeeze just a little bit too hard on this rather thin metal tip, I could possibly damage it. And then if later things didn't work well, I'd always wonder, was it something I did? However, these two things, I think it's probably safe to measure those. I don't think I can do any damage to this new one, as long as I don't, get too rambunctious here. My goodness, the kids are having a good time outside today. So it looks like it is 6.5 millimeters. Let me reposition that here. Yeah, still the same. 6.5 millimeters. And the one that I filed down is 6.33 millimeters. So what that'd be, about 17 hundredths of a millimeter? Makes sense to me anyway. However, for these little things, I think the best way to compare them is to look at them through the macro lens and then the microscope. Now, here is something that I have always done as long as I've had this airbrush. I've never done it any other way. Whenever I insert the needle, I always come from the back and go this way, and when I remove it, I'll remove it very carefully out this way. Okay? The reason being is that, let's assume that you had a little bit of paint still at the beginning of the channel that the needle goes in. And if you were to shove it out this way, you could drag the paint into the channel. Whereas this way, if you're always going in this direction, you're kind of flushing it out. Now, before we start looking at the nozzles, we'll just check out the nozzle caps. You can see the one on the left there. It's quite clear that I sanded right through the chrome plating and into the brass. Okay, I was looking at it upside down. I meant the one on the right was the one I sanded down. And that's why it's a little bit shorter. And if we turn it over here very carefully, you can see I did the same thing right here. Now, when I went down, I obviously probably made the hole a little larger, especially, that is, if the hole was tapered. Let's just turn this one over and see if we can see a difference. very little difference, but probably some. Okay, I've refocused there so that the holes are actually a little clearer. What we'll do later is we'll take screenshots with the microscope at the same magnification and just compare the holes visually side by side. It's pretty hard to measure something like that. The new one is on the left. I got it right this time. Can't really see a huge difference. I'm in about as close as I can get with the macro lens. Let's see if I can stand them up on the ends so that we can look sort of straight down into them. Now we don't even need the microscope to see the difference on this one. The one on the right is the old one. The one on the left is the new one. And the old one is obviously larger in diameter. It's more worn down, or it's more maybe reamed out from the needle, although I was always extremely careful not to force the needle. But what I want to take a look at is, do we see any metal deterioration on the new one like we did on the old one? Let's go to the microscope. When I edited out that last scene that you just saw there, I noticed that the old airbrush nozzle still had a little bit of paint on it. You may have noticed that too. However, I'm noticing now that I've got it all cleaned up. I cleaned it up in this stuff, by the way. I just soaked it in there for about 10 minutes or so, and then I gently brushed it off with a little toothbrush, and anyway, it's all cleaned up. However, excuse me, now I'm noticing that it looks a lot like the new one. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to carefully make a little mark on the inside, just on the inside. It's not going to affect the flow of the paint. If I was to make it on the outside, it might, wreck the air seal. So I'm just going to make it on the inside. Okay, I want to be careful this doesn't slip off now and hurt the end of the nozzle. Does not have to be pretty, just have to need to see it. Well, I can sort of see a little tiny spot right down there. Problem is, I can't see it with the naked eye. I can only see it when I look on the screen. Okay, I picked it up with my fingers and I held it so I could see what I was doing, and I redid it. And this one I can actually see. Now I want to take another look at the end of this nozzle. See if I can't maybe refocus a little more clearly. Okay, this time I'm going to see if I can't maybe improve on things by bringing all the light in from one side. At least that's the plan. And okay, that's the 40 power. Let's see if we can get that as sharp as possible here. Get my light going. Well, I may as well let you know right off the bat here that this does not go as I thought it was going to. I had it all envisioned in my mind, and the headlines in the newspaper were going to read this: Winnipeg Bus Depot Express Clerk wins Nobel Prize, finds out why airbrush nozzles disintegrate. Yeah. Okay, let's move it up to 100 power. Alright, let's just try and concentrate on the very end of the nozzle there where it appears that the metal is disintegrating. Just sort of follow down. Just look at the edge where it stays sharp. I will go right to the back side. As best we can anyway. Now if you notice on the end of the nozzle, right on the end there, I guess I'm not really seeing it any better than it was before. Well, I could go up in power again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see anything. We'll just try it here. Make sure that the objective doesn't hit the nozzle. Yeah, unfortunately the objective is kind of... Well, here's what's happened. It did not go well. I got my nozzles mixed up. I was saying you can see here on the new one, when actually we were looking at the old one, and stuff like that. I'm just going to have to redo this, and I just don't have any more time today. It's really not that important. I had kind of hoped that it was going to go different. Somebody came over and had coffee, and there was other things that happened, and the day has gone by, and if I want to get this up to YouTube, I gotta pretty well cut it off right now. And as far as I know, we haven't heard from Maple Airbrush as to all the good ideas and so on. So maybe in tomorrow's video things will be better, and yeah. Thanks for watching. All being well, we'll see you again tomorrow.